I think it's going to be one of the nights where you got to take a few 50-50s and hope that they pan out, and just try to play some good spots, and then hopefully you pick your studs right.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with you. I think we're going to be looking at a lot of that Orlando Magic play, probably even regardless. I can't imagine them both Fournier and Cole Anthony playing. I mean, even if they do, there's still down guys. There's still rotational value plays that are there. And I think there's some value with Houston as well. Deshawn Tate's been starting a lot, playing a bunch of minutes. Daniel House has been playing a lot of minutes. And, on a slate like tonight, when we mentioned value, we're not talking likely, $3,000 plays on DraftKings or whatever. It's probably like mid to high fours, 5K range, like guys that are more just priced slightly under than they are, the total punt plays. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how all this breaks out. We do have a 5-game slate for today. The late night hammer, we have 2 of them. We have Orlando and Golden State, like I said, waiting on that Orlando Magic news, probably going to come after roster lock. 223 game total there, 8-point spread. Philadelphia and Portland, 229.5 game total, 5.5 point spread. The Blazers, the underdog at home here in a matchup that we just saw recently between these two teams. We also have Miami, Houston, Toronto, Boston, which I think could be a pretty interesting one there. Toronto on a back-to-back, and Pacers, Detroit. Pacers are on a back-to-back after a tough loss to Brooklyn last night. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound there in a good matchup for them.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I mean, you definitely have some good spots. The Toronto-Boston game is really fun. Toronto on a back-to-back. That Portland and Philadelphia game, that game before they didn't have Dame Lillard, so he's back in this time, which is kind of crazy that they're almost a 6-point dog here at home with Dame back in this lineup. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Let's kick it off, in your playbook today. Looking at the point guard position again, there's some really top talent on these small slates. So it's kind of like you said, 50-50, pick the right play, see which way we're going to go. Steph Curry is the top of the playbook here at point guard. They get Orlando. It's a great matchup for them. We see ownership, actually leaning to be pretty high on Curry tonight. But is there a blowout factor that worries you here? I mean, if there is no Cole Anthony, if there is no Evan Fournier, their starting lineup could look like Frank Mason, Terrence Ross, like Chuma Okeke, Vucevic, Gary Clark, James that whole group, right? It can be pretty brutal here.
Right. I mean, they are the biggest, they're the biggest dog on the slate. They started out as a 5-point dog, and now they're almost up to 8.5, 9 points in some areas. So, yeah, that definitely is worrisome. That's almost one thing that kind of made me wanted to lean a little bit more off of Vuce in terms of cash. But, I mean, he's just such a solid play. But nonetheless, you definitely have to factor that in. And that's one big reason why, I like Damian Lillard as kind of the pivot off of Steph. He's projected to be a little bit lower owned, especially on DraftKings, which is obviously where I play the most. And like I said, this is just an excellent spot here for Dame Lillard. If you guys watched De'Aaron Fox just a couple of nights ago, absolutely torched this Philadelphia team at home. So just can imagine what Dame's going to do to him. Went out for 48 fantasy points last time. He missed a few games. Came back out, played 33 minutes, so I likely expect him to jump back up to that 35, 36, 37-minute range that he usually stays in. And, yeah, like I said, I just kind of like him as the pivot off of Steph Curry, where I think a lot of people are easily going to go.
Right. 2 players that's sort of in the mid-tier that are at similar price points, but ownership drastically leaning in the direction of one of these two. We have Kemba Walker against Toronto. Kemba has really struggled. He had that one good game against the Clippers, but other than that, seems like he's either shaking off some rust after the early season injury. It could just be simply that he's having a hard time playing with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are 2 very ball-dominant players, and therefore he's not able to get in his rhythm. And then we have Kendrick Nunn, who's played over 30 minutes in 3 straight. Goran Dragic is ruled out. Nunn's $5,000 on FanDuel. Kemba's $5,500 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, $6,500 for Walker, $58 for Nunn. Do you have a lean between either of these 2 guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's Kendrick Nunn for me. This is, a pace-up spot for Miami. Houston plays with a lot of pace. I mean, John Wall is probable. I think he's probably going to play. Mm-hmm. I think that Nunn, like you said, he's going to have no ownership. That's what he's coming in projected as. I mean, as you mentioned, the guy's played over 30 minutes in 3 straight games. They're still without Dragic. He's carrying a decent usage rate. And, all he takes is one of those games where we were seeing him drop 35, 40 fantasy points, and
Right.
you're going to be cruising for sure.
Yeah, I had him in the value ball for me today. And, I think if people are maybe box score watching, they see Nunn's recent performances and they're like, he hasn't really been great. He was definitely a disappointment against the Knicks. But you look at the recent stretch of games for him, their pace down spots, their games against good defenses. This is the complete opposite. This is an up-tempo game against a bad team that doesn't play much D. So, yeah, I think there's an opportunity where you said, we're expecting a low ownership here. We could get one of those 35 fantasy point games out of Kendrick Nunn tonight. I know earlier in the year where he was really having those big games, Butler was out of the lineup, Tyler Hero was out of the line. Those guys are back. But the fact that he's starting and playing the 30 minutes in this spot for me, I think it makes it difficult to fade on a small slate like this. Value, you have Frank Mason. I think he's the name that everybody knows. But I want to get your take on Dennis Smith Jr., who is expected to be available to make his debut for the Pistons tonight. DSJ, we know, can play offense, doesn't play a lick of defense. Dalen Wright's definitely starting here. But, they don't have a backup point guard. We saw Derrick Rose playing around 20 to 25 minutes a night. Does Dennis Smith Jr. at min price on a 5-game slate pique you at all?
I don't know how I feel about it. Obviously, you don't know exactly how much he's going to play with the new team. You don't know what his role is going to be. I'm just not 100% sure that he sees over 15 to 20 minutes. Dalen's been playing really well, and he's been playing 37 to 40 minutes a game. So I don't know if they're going to take that off of him or if they keep him in that kind of minute range, which is a big reason why I like him quite a bit tonight. But yeah, Dennis, as we know, we've seen him play some very good offense. We know that he has upside. It's not the greatest matchup here, against Indiana. He's probably going to likely see a lot of try-hard T.J. McConnell, which is not exactly my favorite spot.
Right.
So for me, I think he could be a tournament flyer, but I don't know if I'll go there or not.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Again, small slates. I think, like you said, if he sees 20 or so minutes, he could probably get there at mid price, but it would have to be one of those desperation, probably stars and scrub fits to get him in there tonight. Let's go over to the shooting guard spot. Fred VanVleet was someone that I think we were all in on yesterday. It was a great matchup for him against the Wizards, and he just did nothing for us. We're still waiting on news on OG Anunoby. Not necessarily that he would impact VanVleet too much, but it may take Norman Powell out of the starting lineup. Powell's been really playing well. If you're picking between the two, assuming OG is out, are you still ready for a bounce back on VanVleet, or are you taking the savings of Norman Powell?
I think you have to take the savings. I hate to say it because, even in the playbook, I kind of mentioned where, Fred VanVleet has been in these similar situations in these bounce back spots, and he's done them really, really well, averaging right around 51 fantasy points in those spots when he was, hadn't been able to go over 30 fantasy points the game prior. Mm-hmm. So, all of the numbers kind of go and point to VanVleet, and he's looking like he's basically going to be unowned, which makes me even want to play him even more. He's only 8.5 on DraftKings, which is where I would love to play him anyways because of his 3-point upside. We know he's got massive upside on the defensive side too. He's probably going to see a lot of Jaylen Brown, which is not my favorite spot either.
The one thing about Jaylen Brown, not to just cut you off here, but apparently he's dealing with some knee tendonitis. I live, just outside of Boston as it is. So I was actually listening to a radio interview this morning with Danny Ainge, and Ainge is saying that he's dealing with knee tendonitis. That Jaylen Brown is saying it's painful. It's just something that he's going to try to play through. It's a reason he had missed recent time.
Right.
If Brown is dealing with a knee injury that's maybe hurting some lateral quickness of any kind, or something like that, it could be that Brown ends up being labored a little bit on the defensive end. So, well, I agree with you. In the past, Brown's defense has been one of his stronger suits, and again, he could be playing through this. He played a bunch of minutes the other night on the knee as well, but this is something that's apparently going to cause him some problems throughout the year. Something he's just going to have to deal with pain management. It may not be that bad of a matchup for VanVleet as if Brown was 100%, which, to Danny Ainge's own word, they're a little bit concerned about the knee right now.
Yeah, obviously we all know Marcus Smart's not there either. So, I do like the spot here for VanVleet. I don't think anybody goes there after last night. Kind of let everybody down. And we've still seen these spots where even Norm and him both play well. And Fred VanVleet has had some massive games here lately. So to think that he can't or won't, yeah, that's definitely not what I'm thinking or seeing that he could do tonight, because we've seen him do it multiple times. So I think he's very interesting in tournaments. I have him as a tournament play. Just for the simple fact that we know the upside that he can bring. So, yeah, I still like Fred VanVleet tonight.
I think the most shocking thing for me on this slate was seeing Seth Curry and the ownership that we have on him today. I thought initially I was looking at Steph Curry's ownership. We have him projected, Seth Curry, rather, to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. I know there's no Shake Milton, doubtful to play. I know Seth is turning the corner a little bit. He got COVID. And since he's come back, the production hadn't been there, but the last two games looking good. Are you buying into a chalky Seth Curry tonight?
I think it's good chalk. I think it's really good chalk. We know that Portland has struggled against the shooting guard spot. Gary Trent's pretty decent defender. But still yet, he's just too cheap. He's way too cheap. He's 4.1 on FanDuel, which I think is extremely bad. 4.7 on DraftKings. He's put up 25 or more in his last two games, played 23 and 27 minutes. Minutes are back up. Yeah, like you said, Shake Milton's doubtful. I think Curry's going to probably play 30 minutes here. And, at his price, I just don't think you can afford to pass it up.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for value on tonight's slate, it's seeing that ownership. I'd rather live or die with that type of ownership there. Because if you don't play him and he hits the nuts on you at that cost, you're kind of hamstrung a little bit there. At small forward at the top, we do have Pascal Siakam. I think he's a power forward, probably center on DraftKings. I don't know. They keep on changing what he is. Yeah, power forward, center on DraftKings. Small forward for whatever reason over on FanDuel. A guy that you've been touting, I think, almost every slate. Started off super strong, still came through with 40 fantasy points yesterday, but he did not have a good series against Boston during the playoffs.
Right.
And Jason Tatum is healthy and playing well, good defense. I know he's your guy, but are you worried at all with Siakam in this spot?
Yeah. I probably, again, I'm a big fan of Jimmy Butler tonight, and that's probably where I'll go for a little bit cheaper. Especially on the DraftKings. Well, I say he's cheaper. It looks like Siakam's cheaper on the DraftKings side of things.
Yes.
But 9.6 on FanDuel is something that I don't think you can stomach there. It's a little bit too expensive. But yeah, Jimmy Butler is literally one of my favorite plays. So yeah, I do worry about Siakam. He's only, I think in their first matchup, I think he had 22 points, like 5 boards, 1 assist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he's having bad games, but he's not giving you those types of games you're going to need to win a GPP or.
And not at almost 10K.
Yeah, right. Especially on FanDuel at almost 10K. On DraftKings at 8K,
Sure.
I can probably expect a 40 fantasy point game from Siakam or around that number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even at a ceiling, he's probably at 50 to 55. So yeah, I think Jimmy Butler is easily the play there over Siakam.
Butler was, again, one of my favorite plays in this spot. The fact that he's come back from his layoff and has been the best Butler we've seen.
Yeah.
He's looking like a guy that's ready to get Miami back to the finals, to be honest with you. So I'm with you there. Under 9K, feels like a crime, and you're getting him for $8,400 tonight on DraftKings. Like, lock and load Butler. And again, I don't understand that ownership. It's low.
I was about to say, I was like, please stay there. Just
yeah. I'm hoping that our number projections here are right, because sign me up for some Jimmy Butler there.
All the Jimmy Butler
in that spot. Another guy that's priced too cheaply has been Jeremy Grant, another guy that we've been in love with. $8,200 on FanDuel. The price is slowly back up on the rise on him, but $7,400 on DraftKings. Again, feels like you have to play him. He was 7K the other day, and he was 60% owned. Now we're on a 5-game slate instead of a 10-game slate. At $7,400, I know it's the Pacers, but he's giving you a lock, I think, of 40 to 50 fantasy.
Yeah, that's what I put on. And sorry, I think my camera fell down a little bit. But yeah, to that point, 45 or more in his last 3 or 4 games. He's back up there. He had a little bit of a string where he wasn't, scoring as well. Had a couple 25, 30, 35 fantasy point games, and then bam, he's right back up to putting up big numbers. And no Derrick Rose. It's basically Jeremy Grant's team again, and I'm very excited, and especially that price of 7.4. That's just way too cheap.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Where are you looking at value today at small forward?
Like Juan Toscano Anderson, again, he's carved out a role there for the Warriors. It's a good spot, and no Aaron Gordon still for the Magic. He's playing well. He's played 26, 39, 33, 28, 26 minutes, put up 22 or more fantasy points in all 6 games. So he's been a real solid value. I wouldn't expect him to kind of go for like 35 plus or anything, but I do think he can get you in that 25 point range where you're going to need that kind of value as far as that floor goes on a slate like tonight. Mm-hmm. Really like Daniel House as well. Those are probably my 2 favorites. Daniel House come in, played another 30-plus minutes. He's played 30 and 34 in his last 2 games. Daniel House played every game last year almost when he could play, and whenever they didn't kick him off the team, played 38 minutes a game. You're still with Eric Gordon starting, he's basically coming in as the 6th man, and he's playing the rest of the game almost. So yeah, I think you have to love, and he's virtually unowned. I know it's against Miami, but he's too cheap. And if he's going to play 33 plus minutes a game or 30 plus minutes a game, yeah, I love the value there.
Where are you on Deshawn Tate? I mean, another guy, he's a little bit more expensive than House. Obviously, he's $5K on DraftKings, $5,500 on FanDuel. But another guy that's been playing a decent amount of minutes. Any interest with him, or are you just looking at House tonight?
Well, I think a lot of people are playing Tate now, just for the simple fact that he's been getting a lot of run. He's been getting good minutes. But I think House is the play. I still think House is probably the one for me. Tate, he has shown upside whenever he's given starter minutes and played 30-plus minutes. He is getting good minutes, but he's not starting, so he's not getting he's getting a lot of run with both like Eric Gordon on the floor, and he's going to get it with John Wall a lot on the floor. So a lot of just not usage that he's not going to be able to get.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then the one guy that I want to ask about you, because I don't see him in the playbook, but he was in the value vault, so no secrets for here, is Josh Jackson. Where are you standing with him on tonight's slate? A guy that's coming off the bench and been scoring for them. There is no Derrick Rose. We know Rose is a high usage player. Jackson's only $5,800 on DraftKings tonight. As a scoring guard, small forward option. I think he's a small forward on FanDuel. Any interest on Josh Jackson tonight?
I mean, yeah, I was looking at the price and I just wasn't enthused. He's such an up and down player. He could get you 40 fantasy points or he can get you 15 on any given night. Now like you mentioned, you have Dennis Smith Jr. that's going to be playing with alongside of him, who is also a decently high usage guy whenever he gets the minutes. So I don't think that both of those two are going to be able to coexist and both play well. I would probably be more prone to playing a DSJ at 3K than to play Josh Jackson at near 6.
Yeah.
Whenever I can just play, I could pay like at 1K less and get Daniel House, or 1K less and get, JTA or something like that, and kind of pay up elsewhere. I think is kind of where my thinking is on Josh Jackson.
Cool. Power forward here at the top, we got Jason. It's actually pretty loaded. There's Jason Tatum, Domantas Sabonis, Bam Adebayo for FanDuel. I think he's power forward only. DraftKings, I think he's a center only. All of them have great matchups. How are you deciding which of the 3 to play? They're even priced right next to each other, basically.
Yeah, I think Sabonis goes a little bit under the radar after he kind of let everybody down last night. Everybody was thinking that last night was going to be his major bounce back, but yeah. I think it's going to be tonight. I think he's going to smash tonight. I really like the spot for him right here. And it's against Detroit, who we know has just struggled against bigs. They're starting old man Blake Griffin at the power forward spot.
He doesn't look anything like the player that he was.
No. And of course they're giving up like the second most fantasy points to opposing centers, where we know he'll play a lot of center too. So you really like the spot for Sabonis here. I think it can be a total smash spot. Tatum, obviously, if you guys have been following along, you know all about the power forwards and small forwards against Toronto. It's been a thing. It's going to continue to be a thing. Tatum obviously I thought he would be garnering a lot more ownership, but obviously that's not the case, is what it looks like. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I think Sabonis is likely my favorite out of the spot. Really like Jason Tatum as well. Bam, I just don't know if I love the price. I mean, we know that Bam has the upside.
Mm-hmm.
But with me loving Butler as much as I do, I just don't know. I mean, and I might have a few correlation stacks with them too, and in the game stacks as well. But I'm really liking like Tyler Hero as a cheaper heat play or Kendrick Nunn.
I like that Hero's coming up the bench as that sixth man right now. I think that's helping him out a lot.
Yeah. So I just feel like I can probably stack Butler with those two guys and then kind of pay up and get other spots that I like instead of having to pay up for Bam.
Are we continuing to believe Chris Boucher is going to see consistent playing time now? We've been through this with him before where he played 30 minutes a night and was killing it, and then all of a sudden that dropped off. Now we're back. Do you think I think this is a great spot for him. Boston doesn't play big, so it should be a time for him to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the spot if we think that he's going to play 25 to 30 minutes. I mean, if he only played 24 last night and he still put up, 46 or something like that? I mean, the guy is just a lightning in a bottle. I mean, he smashes. He's really good. Yeah, and Boston is definitely a team that we've loved to fade the front court on. I mean, if he's going to get the minutes, and like I said in the playbook, this is probably the last time, if he does continue to see those minutes, this will be the last time we see him under 6K. I mean, well, at 6K, I should say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What other value are you looking at tonight on the power forward spot?
Well, on that flip side, I really like Daniel Tice. I think his price is fair for a guy.
Robert Williams pulled out, I think, helps there.
Bobby Williams, yeah. Time Lord or Landlord is out. So, yeah, I mean, Daniel Tice likely going to play 30 minutes. Tristan Thompson has not been playing more than 22 to 25 most nights. And, they're just really not playing anybody else after that. So I think that Daniel Tice is probably going to play a lot of the 4 and the 5 tonight. And, again, going against that Toronto team. I mean, the 4s and the 5s have been smashing them lately. So really like Daniel Tice as a value.
Yeah. John Wall is officially available to play today. I knew he was probable. It wasn't really a huge thing there. Mo Harkless also available to play tonight. He's missed some games for the Miami Heat. But, again, not a huge earth mover there. Wall's more of the prominent news when it comes to that situation. Let's move it over to center here, where we have Joel Embiid. We saw him go for 35 I think it was, against Portland the other day, but I think it was only like 3 or 4 rebounds or 4 or 5 rebounds. Didn't give you much of any secondary stats. So the scoring's great. I think that was more of an outlier than what we can expect to happen again. I know Enes Kanter had like 18 rebounds in that game against him, but I mean, I think top play of the slate is going to be Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, that's exactly what I said in the playbook. Portland is still, Kanter's not a good defender. Joel Embiid's still going to have his way on the offensive side. I think he probably will kind of take that to heart a little bit, that he allowed Kanter to have 17 rebounds against him, last time out. I think this is going to be a little bit of a different game. I think we see a very, very vengeful, Joel Embiid here. So yeah, I mean, I really like Joel. He's checking in to be pretty unowned, especially on the DraftKings side of things.
Yeah, the DraftKings number is surprising to me.
Yeah.
FanDuel, I get the ownership's kind of split between the top 2 there, which I can see because he can only play 1. But like when you can fit a lot of guys on DraftKings, seeing a low ownership on Embiid is surprising to me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I really like him. 52 or more fantasy points in his last 4 or 5. He's been good. He's just been really good.
Where are you on Mason Plumlee? Again, a guy that's been really up and down, but right now he's trending very up. Last 3 games, 40, 41, and 52 fantasy points. There was, I think, a double overtime game, or at least an overtime game in the mix there. Right. But in the end, I mean, listen, Miles Turner, great shot blocker. Sabonis, a great rebounder. But, this isn't a front court that we've really feared going up against before. And Plumlee does enough to fill up the stat sheet. If you're looking mid-tier, is Plumlee in your eyes here?
Yeah, I mean, I actually put Plumlee as one of my core centers for tonight. I just really like the spot. I don't think a lot of people go there because I think either people are going to pay up or there's really not a lot of spots to pay down on this slate. So my thinking is that more likely people are just going to pay up for Vucevic or Embiid. And I think Plumlee goes way under the radar, and I don't think anybody plays him. So, yeah, I really do like that spot. I even like that mini stack there with Grant, Daylon Wright, and Plumlee. I think you can 2-man stack those up and play. I really like the Pistons tonight in general.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And let's wrap up this live stream talking about maybe like the most up and down player, I guess, of the slate. And that's going to be Demarcus Cousins. I actually have him in the value vault. I read your playbook, and you say he's there basically out of necessity, not someone that you like. And I get it. The last 2 games, the minutes weren't there. The production definitely wasn't there the last game. The 30, 35 fantasy points I think he gave you on DraftKings the game before that was okay, but it wasn't the huge production that we were expecting out of him. Now, for me, I'm sort of going to explain that away with it being the fact that they played back-to-backs and that he was limited for that reason. But Houston doesn't play tomorrow. And they had, obviously, yesterday off. So I'm hopeful that this is a return to the Cousins we saw playing over 30 minutes, like a week and a half ago, where he was giving you that 50 fantasy point upside. Now, it is a kind of a tough matchup going up against Bam here at times, but they also throw Kelly Olynyk out there at center also, and I think Cousins will have a field day with that spot. Right. So I'm not afraid of him, and I'm kind of hoping that on a small slate like this, ownership kind of goes away from him, and on DraftKings, I may pair him up with Embiid as a double center combo.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And, yeah, I mean, more of in terms of what I was looking at was the fact that he's going to be on the floor a lot with Eric Gordon, Victor Oladipo, and John Wall. Mm-hmm. I mean, where's the usage coming from, I mean, yeah, you can expect some rebounds. You can probably expect some putbacks and stuff of that nature, but those guys are going to take 90% of the shots. I mean, Cousins, I just don't see him being able to get you. I just don't see him being able to get 40 fantasy points. I don't see it. I mean, I don't see it being able to happen. I did expect his ownership to be a little bit higher because I felt people were probably still kind of chasing him with that regard. But yeah, I don't really like it as much with all 3 of those guys back. I mean, the only guy they're missing, of course, is Christian Wood, which allows him to even get the start. Right. But at the same time, those 3 guys are very high usage players, all 3 of them. So,
so you think Gordon is going to start with Oladipo and Wall?
I mean, I'm pretty sure he did last game, didn't he?
He had me coming off the bench. I don't remember if he had started.
I don't know if they all 3 started together. That's a good question.
Because I know earlier in the year when it was Harden was still there, Gordon was the 6th man off that bench.
Yeah.
So I'm if they start all of them, I agree with you. That's far too many shots to try to fit around. I'm pulling up this matchup against the Pelicans right now and seeing exactly what their starting lineup was. Assuming they all even played in that game. It was a blowout. So starting lineup.
Haven't seen very many instances. We haven't seen very many.
Also, Oladipo wasn't in that game. So that's, the Rockets have been periodically resting their guys. So let's see. Right. He wasn't there. Walls. And let's see if they all played against the Spurs. But I think Wood was in that game. No, so Gordon came off the bench. Wall, Oladipo, Cousins, Deshawn Tate, PJ Tucker were the starting lineup with Gordon and House off the bench. Okay. So I think we'll probably see that starting lineup again with Gordon as the 6th man. So and that was the last 30-minute game from Cousins. He had 11 points, 12 boards in that one. So not a huge game, obviously, but good to see. Gordon came off the bench there, had a huge game, 26 points, 7 boards. So
yeah.
Gordon as a 6th man, I like a lot better. I was actually playing Gordon, but if he was going to start with all of them, I probably would have been a little bit more hesitant. But if he's going to keep coming off the bench there, I'm for it for sure.
Yeah, that'll be something I'll be looking out for. And to that point, yeah. I mean, again, I'm more of a pay up for center tonight. That's kind of the way, I modeled it whenever I did the playbook, and I probably, I mean, it's probably not going to change too much for me.
Now I'm with you. Embiid's my favorite play. So I am playing Embiid on FanDuel 100%. On DraftKings, like I said, I may go an Embiid Cousins sort of contrarian play if we think that Cousins isn't going to have the ownership there. And again, we're not even expecting Embiid to have the ownership there. So it'll be contrarian to that point as well. But Sean, we got a lineup log at 7:30 today. So there's a boatload of time for more news to break. I already see the fast break that's out there. Starting 5 will be posted momentarily. Value Vault is available as well. We'll be in chat answering questions till then. But for now, we'll catch you guys next time.